Content warning. The following video contains material that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Dear Abby, we've never met before, so this makes it odd. I feel like this is necessary. My name's Jake, for starters. I work the checkout line at the grocery store up on 67th Street. You know, the one with the parking lot that's way too big for the store itself? Yeah, that one. Um, I'm 24, really tall, and have a rather scrappy appearance. You probably wouldn't recognize me if I came to talk to you. I don't have a very memorable face. I, I I don't really know why I'm telling you all this, to be honest, but this isn't the point of me writing you. I was working late at night yesterday. It's a very average day for the most part. Nothing too exciting happened, but you'd be surprised at how interesting this job can get sometimes. I've been reading some book. The guy that worked the counter shift, the worked shift, that counter the shift before me had. It was some really crappy murder mystery, chock full of cliches, incredibly boring, if you ask me. But it's something to do, I guess. When you showed up, though, my whole night changed. I don't know exactly what it is about you that caught my attention at first, but as soon as I saw you, I got this odd feeling, a weird mix between excitement and terror. That's the best way I can describe it, at least. I saw you walk into my line, and I quickly composed myself. I'd be slouching down in my chair for a while, so since I rarely ever get anyone in my line, it was only when you got closer that I realized what about you caught my attention. You were absolutely beautiful. You walked up and said, "Hey," and handed me your cart. I could tell by the way you were talking that the way that you looked that you were very sleep deprived. Though this wasn't surprising considering how late it was. After a second two of awkward silences, I realized that you'd greeted me. I suddenly forced out a "Yeah, hi" in response. I cursed myself mentally for that one. I sat there for a second, trying to focus. What's your name?" I said. It's only later that I realized how odd this must have seemed. What kind of grocery bag guy asks what someone's name is? B- I'm glad I did it though. I remember you said your name was Abigail, but that you go by Abby for short. Abby. It seemed to fit so perfectly. The name seemed to roll off my tongue as I said it back to myself silently. It was like sweet honey. It just felt good as I said it. You seemed to be perplexed when I looked back at you, and I was wondering if I'd done something to upset you. Shouldn't you be packing those?" You said, and pointed to your groceries. Suddenly shocked and embarrassed, I looked up and apologized, and clumsily started shoving groceries into bags as fast as I could. I couldn't believe myself. How stupid could I be? When I looked up, I realized you were laughing. "You're kind of cute," you said. I tried to play it off cool, but I was obviously thrilled. A girl like this thought I was cute? "You are too," I said, and as I hastily packed the rest of your groceries. As you walked out, you you turned around as you reached the door and said, "Have a good night." I guess I look pretty stupid writing all this down, so you probably still remember it. I mean, yeah, it did happen yesterday, but I went home ecstatic that night with all the confidence in the world. I feel like it's almost unreal writing it back here. Anyways, um, I wanted to write you this letter, Abby, to tell you that um I love you. I don't know what it was I felt that night. It was some weird mix of emotions, but all I know is even in the small little transaction we had, I felt as if there was something between us. Please write me back soon. Sincerely, Jake. Dear Abby, uh, it's been a week since I sent my last letter, and I still haven't gotten a response. But that doesn't matter. How have you been? My life's been just as normal as usual. Get up, go to work, go to bed. I live in a really shitty apartment, but I guess that's what you get when your work as a grocery bagger. I've thought about you a lot lately, and I sometimes wonder if you still remember me. I saw you again today at work, this time at a more reasonable hour, thankfully. I didn't want to bother you to see if you'd approach me on your own. You came in my line again, which made me absolutely thrilled. This time I was less nervous. Was going to act normal no matter what you did or said. I wasn't going to get a girl like you slip through my fingers. As you walked up, you muttered something that was too quiet for me to make out, and I waited at the end of the counter for me. And you waited at the end of the counter for me to finish packing your bags. Oh, this obviously wasn't what I had expected, but it wasn't all too bad. You didn't seem to feel anything at all, actually. I was expecting you to either come up and talk to me or avoid me like the plague, but instead you just walked on through as if I was another stranger. That makes me wonder if you got my last letter. You should check your mailbox more often. There was one moment, though, where I felt something. I looked over briefly to see what you were doing, and at the same time, you seemed to look up at me, see how far along I was. Right then, our, our eyes locked. Only for a second or two, but in those 2 seconds, I saw so much more in you than I'd seen last time. I felt as if I had known you for years, like I knew all your intricate feelings and emotions. Did, did you did you feel anything like that with me? Shortly after I finished packing your bags, you paid and walked out. Obviously, this was pretty normal process for me considering I do it 50 times every day. I determined I'd been determined since the night that I wrote you that letter. The next time I saw you, I was going to get more out of it. I kind of screwed that one up. I wasn't satisfied with it. I I had to have more. There's a little room in the very back corner of the grocery store designated for staff. In there, I knew they kept all the security footage from the day. All the staff are informed of this, and the security camera locations hanged. Luckily for me, there's one positioned right next to my corner. I waited until the store was closed and everybody left, and then I went in. After flipping through all the TV screens, I found the one that connected to my camera. I rewinded it until about when I remembered you coming in. After a few minutes of scanning, I found it. There you were. I paused on the best still shot I could find. I knew the camera wouldn't do you justice, but it was the best I could have for now. Having a longer look at you, I realized how truly perfect you were. Every feature of your body, your hair, your face, your legs, your chest was just perfection. I rewinded the tape so when you first came up to my line a few times, I just couldn't help it. my my eyes were glued to the screen. After a few minutes of consideration, I popped out the tape and shoved it in my pocket and then drove home. I knew I wasn't allowed to, but I could very well get fired for taking such actions, but I couldn't help myself. I had to have you with me at all times, even if it means losing my job. Abby, I love you. I love everything about you. I think about you constantly now. Do you feel the same way about me, Abby? I just want us to be together forever. right back soon. Yours truly, Jake. Dear Abby, it's been 3 days since, and I still haven't gotten a reply. Why don't you want to talk to me? I'm still unsure if you've got my last two letters. Please tell me if you have. So, I got fired from my job. They found the missing tape. I got a call from the store owner, my boss, at 6 a.m. on Monday and was told to come in immediately. They were having a mandatory staff meeting. When I got there, all the staff were gathered around a small table with the owner at the head of it. Once everyone had arrived, he told us that apparently there had been a minor robbery yesterday. And they had around $200 worth of stuff taken from them and one tape that would have shown who was the culprit. It was the one that was taken. Just my luck. He told us that no one was going to leave this room until somebody confessed. After a few minutes, I finally gave in. I told them everything about how I felt, if me and you had some kind of connection. After explaining the whole story, the entire room was staring wide-eyed at me. After I finished, I sat there in silence for several seconds. Suddenly, the store owner broke the tension. Jake, you're fired. Get out of here now and don't come back, he said. I did as I was told and got out of there as fast as I could. Stupid prick. He's always treated me like shit. He's been on my case since today I got this job. I swear he's just been waiting for me to do one little thing that could justify firing me. And the one time I slip up, he finds out. Why didn't he understand though? Doesn't he get that you and I are meant for each other? Any rational man would have understood. Anyone put in my position would have done that, right? I've been searching you up a lot lately. With no job, I have all the time in the world to spend learning about you. Do, do you know how much you can find out when someone with just a first name and a town of residence? I found out that your last name's Merritt. What a beautiful name. Abby Merritt. I can't help but say it loud whenever I think about you. Abby Merritt. Abby Merritt. I also found out that you're 24 and you live a mile away from me. I drove down to your apartment complex today. It looks very nice, much nicer than where I live. I asked to see you multiple times, but I was told that you weren't there every time. I felt more and more discouraged every time I asked, but I was determined to see you again. After a few hours of asking, I decided to stay in the parking lot for a while, waiting for you to come back. And after many hours of waiting, you did. It was late at night, around 10:30, I believe. I saw you pull up in your car to get out. I felt a sudden rush of warmth after seeing your face again. I know I have the security camera tape to look at, but it doesn't compare to seeing you in real life. I made sure to record it for later when I was at home, this time with a much higher quality camera. I wanted to capture as much detail as possible. I didn't know the next time I would see you in security tape wasn't enough for me anymore. It just wasn't. I asked the woman at the front desk multiple times where your room number was, but she refused to tell me. She thought I was some sort of creep. See, Abby, these people, they don't understand us. They don't understand what we feel for each other. I ended up waiting in the parking lot a little while longer until someone came out. After talking with him for a bit, he told me where your apartment number was. He, he didn't want to talk at first, but I made him. You'd be surprised what you can make people tell you when you're holding a knife to their chest. Don't worry, I didn't hurt him too bad, but we can't have someone interfering with us. Don't you agree, Abby? I'm sick of all these people trying to keep us apart. I ended up watching you from the parking lot for a while once I found your room number and how the rooms in this complex were organized. It wasn't hard to locate it. You should be more careful about shutting your blinds, you know. I was easily able to watch you from the parking lot. God, I can't get you out of my head anymore. All I want to do, all I do anymore is watch that video I took of you over and over. Abby, I want to be with you forever. I want to wake up in the morning and see you next to me in bed. I cannot wait until the next time I see you again. Love, Jake. Dear Abby, I have some really exciting news, Abby. I'm moving in with you. Aren't you excited? We can spend hours and hours and hours together. It'd be just perfect. Uh, let me not get ahead of myself. Let me explain. My job paid just enough so I can make rent and pay for food every week. Because of this, I had little to no money in savings, nowhere near enough to last a very long time. When you take that money flow away, doesn't take very much time until you have nothing left. I was able to get by for a few days, but just today, I got evicted. This could actually be better than I originally thought. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy that gave me your room number has been able to contact the police by now. This way, they won't find out. This way, they won't be able to find me, and we could spend all the time in the world together. It's perfect, isn't it? I made sure to bring you all my tapes and photos that I've been taking with me, though, and my camera, of course. You should really tell whoever's managing your apartment complex to get better staff. I was able to get by security easy. I went up to your room and knocked on the door, but I got no answer. So I decided to get in by other means. After scanning the footage I took from last night over a few times, I noticed that you have a ventilation shaft in the corner of your room. Not surprising, considered how hot it can get in the summer here. I figured there had to be some kind of maintenance hatch that I could get in through. After a few minutes of looking around, I found a door at the end of your hall. It seemed to be some kind of staff room, and luckily, there was a way to the vents there. I crawled through them until I got to your room. It was very cramped and hard to move around, but I managed. When I got there, I felt a sudden rush of success. I figured since the lights were out and I couldn't see that weren't home, but I'm patient. I scanned every part of your room, trying to memorize all the intricate details. Your scent overwhelmed me as I sat there. I caught it briefly during the 2 times you were at the store, but never this strong. It was mesmerizing. I, I couldn't quite place my finger on it, but it reminded me of something. It was almost like peaches. I I sat there hunched over for a few hours, though I taught myself to be extremely patient. I can sit completely motionless for hours at a time, not moving a muscle. No one is going to notice me. And then you finally got home. I felt a wide smile form on my face the second I heard the door open. There you were, my love. Of course, you took no notice of my presence. The light in your room seemed to be angled perfectly so you couldn't see anything in the vent after the first few inches. I tried to contain my excitement, but I started breathing very heavily. I tried to cover it up as best I could, but it was hard. You suddenly looked right at the vent. I went completely silent. After a few seconds, though, you seemed to lose interest. Oh, this made me smile. This is the perfect spot. I could tell that it startled you, though. All throughout the night, you were turning over in your sleep and looked at the vent. People seem to have a sense of when they're being watched. It can send them into complete panic. Don't try to fake it, Abby. I can tell when someone's awake and when someone's truly scared sleep becomes impossible. Why are you scared, anyways? It's just me. Why would I scare you? You do love me, right? You know I love you. I'm looking forward to spending every day with you now, Abby. Right back as soon as you can. Love, Jake. Dear Abby, I saw you wake up this morning. I didn't sleep a wink last night. You were too enthralling. I spent the whole night watching you. I couldn't help it. Anytime I tried to look away, my eyes seemed drawn back. A few seconds later, you look even more amazing when you're sleeping, you know. You'd be surprised how much you can learn about a person's personality by watching them sleep. I was tempted to get out of the vent, get a better view of you multiple times that night, but I resisted the urge. I couldn't have you figuring out I'm here. Not yet, at least. You you seem to spend a lot of time in your bathroom in the morning. I assume that you were taking a shower, putting on makeup. Why, why would you do that, Abby? Anything you could do to change the way that you naturally look would only cover up your true beauty. Why would you want to do that? Don't you want the whole world to see what I see in you? You left shortly after to work, or at least that's what I assumed. After careful consideration, I decided to leave the vent. I slid my hand through one of the slits and felt around for one of the bolts. The surface of the vent was very smooth, which made them very easy to find. I grabbed on to one and twisted as hard as I could. And finally was able to pop it off. I did this with all the other bolts, finally removed the grating. The first thing I did was go over to the bathroom. I quickly disposed of everything that I could find that you could use to mask your face. That stuff disgusts me. This way, everyone will get to see how truly beautiful you are. I also found something in there, your hairbrush. I grabbed it and brought it close to my face to examine it. It was a dull blue with a very thick rounded handle. But that wasn't what interested me. Interested me, the hairs. It took a good few minutes to pull every one of them I could see out and line them up on your counter. I counted them. I got 59. This pleased me greatly. I quickly scooped them up and put them in my pocket. I spent the rest of the day going through your stuff to learn more about you, your interests and stuff. I take it you're a big movie fan, Abby? I found your collection at the back of the closet. I have to say it is quite impressive. I found something in there. I found something in there though that made me mad. A picture of you with another man. It disgusted me just looking at him, holding you like he owned you. I'm the only one that can have you, Abby. No one else. At about 8:30, I started considering get back in the vent since that's when you'd usually that's usually about when you get back from work. Then I had another idea. I looked at your bed. The blankets hung low enough for the floor that you couldn't see underneath the bed unless they were lifted up. I first screwed the vent grating back on and slowly slid under with a smile on my face and waited for you to get home. When you finally came in, you looked completely pale. I noticed someone else came in behind you. They were talking to you about hearing noises coming from your room throughout the day. I mentally yelled at myself. "Oh, I would need to be more careful from now on. Going under the bed had been a good idea though, since you're obviously your first thought was to check the vent. You thanked the person and then left. Finally, you and I were alone. I sat there in silence until you went to bed. It seemed to be an eternity before you did. I wanted to get a closer look at you tonight, and this was my chance. You got into bed and slowly turned off the light. I was cautious, though. I waited for hours to make sure you were asleep, and when I was sure you were, I slowly slid from under the bed, and I saw you there. You looked absolutely stunning. Every curve of your body was perfect. Every little detail was beautiful. I was just in awe looking at you. I reached out my hand and I started to stroke your face. It was soft, like silk. I felt myself starting to, I confess, I felt myself starting to get hard. Your, your beauty was overwhelming. I slowly reached down, started to pleasure myself. I tried to control myself out of worry of waking you up, but I couldn't help it. Was I felt pure ecstasy. Everything about you was perfect. Suddenly, you seemed to turn, started to wake up. Horrified, I quickly slid back under the bed, trying to be as quiet as possible. A few seconds, I saw you get out of bed, look around. I could sense your fear without even noticing, without even looking at you. You should feel calm around me, Abby. I'll protect you. No one will ever touch you but me. I'd kill someone for you, Abby. I made sure to pay attention today. You didn't bring in my letter from yesterday or any of the mail at all. You just must not check your mailbox. I'm going to change that, though. I'm going to leave this one on your desk tomorrow. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I, I'm making something special for you. Check your closet out. Check in your closet after you read this. Yours forever, Jake. Dear Abby, I spent more time today working on the surprise while you were at work. You're really going to love it, Abby. Put a lot of work into it, you know. Spent a few hours uh, today putting it together, putting the finishing touches on it, and I think finally ready for you to see. You got home at around 8:30 again, and I saw the letter laying on your desk almost immediately. I started to smile as I saw you opening it, waiting to see your reaction. It was really quite interesting welcoming your face. I could see all your different emotions and thoughts. You seemed you seemed confused at first, then shocked, then horrified. You you started to shake violently, and I saw that you were about to cry. Do, do, do you not like me, Abby? Why why were you crying? Don't you love me? Don't you love me, Abby? Everything after that was a blur. You looked over in the closet while you were still sobbing. You seemed to be contemplating whether to open it or not. Instead, you ran past it and out the door. When you came back, you had all my letters in your hand and started going through them. At some point, you seemed to break down and curl up on the floor, tears still rolling down your face. I could tell you were desperately trying to say something, anything, but you were paralyzed in fear. After about 10 minutes, I saw you look under the bed, in the vent, anywhere I could be. You see, though, Abby, I'm smarter than that. I knew you'd lick those places. I found a better place after I finished with your surprise. You'll never find me in here. No one will. Isn't it great? I can watch you forever and ever and ever, and there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it. You hadn't found your surprise yet, though, Abby, and I could tell that you were still thinking about it. I saw you look over to your closet, and I knew that you wanted to open it, but at the same time, you were nervous. What was going to be in it? What would you find? This couldn't last forever, though. You and I both knew that. I watched you slowly walk over to the closet, fumbling with the handle, trying to get a firm grasp on it. Suddenly, you flung the doors open and saw it. It was a scrapbook of me and you. I saw you flipping through the pages. you, you, s- you seem to be shocked. Do you not like it, Abby? I got pictures of you and I when you weren't looking. Pictures of you sleeping, pictures of you at your computer. I I even scattered the hairs I collected throughout it all, along with pictures of couples together and of course our faces on them though. I got that picture of you with the other guy and I put it at the very back. Except I didn't leave it like it normally was. I scratched the little fuck's face off it. I hate him. I hate him so much. If I knew who he was, I would hunt him down and make him suffer. Don't you get it, Abby? No one is allowed to have you but me. Me and you are meant for each other, and no one else. But I watched you sob for another 30 minutes, and then get up and run out of your apartment. Shortly after, you came back with multiple policemen. This shocked me. Did you not like the surprise, Abby? Why would you why would you bring these people into our room? It doesn't matter. They'll never find where I am. But if they did, it could ruin everything. All my work for the last few weeks would be for nothing. You wouldn't want that, right, Abby? I'm exhausted from today's work. As much as I love you, I need sleep. Have a good night, baby. I love you. Love, Jake. Dear Abby. Do you see what you've done, Abby? Huh? Did you see what you've done? I woke up at 8 a.m. to see you frantically packing your bags. I was confused at first, but then I understood. You were leaving me. You don't love me. You, you don't love me. How could you do this to me, Abby? You were the only thing I wanted in life. I had nothing else to live for. But when I first met you, I saw a shimmer of hope. I thought that I'd finally have a reason to wake up in the morning and go on with my shitty life. And you went and you threw it away. How could you do this to me? To me, Abby? How? A few seconds after you left your room, I got out of my hiding spot and followed behind you. I saw you throw your bag to the back and get in your car and start it. But I wasn't going to let you get away, though, Abby. I would never let that happen. I ran as fast as I could to your car window and smashed it open and dragged you out. Do you really think you could get away from me, Abby? I had to hit you over the head and knock you out. You were making too much noise. Someone else, someone that wouldn't understand. They could have seen and ruined everything. Well, your information, I had a plan if you reacted like this. I drove out in the storage unit at the edge of town. I reserved a slot the day I decided to move in with you. I drove up and unlocked it. I grabbed you and carried you inside with me. It had only been a few minutes, so you were still unconscious. I made sure to check your pockets to make sure you didn't have your phone with you. I set it at the very back of the small room, and then I got in and lowered the door. I called the owner of the storage unit and told him that I had visited the lot that day and forgotten to lock it, and asked him if he wouldn't mind locking it for me. Of course, he said yes, and I'd hung up. I then threw the phone on the ground and stomped it to make sure that it'd never work again. Shortly later, I heard the owner come up and lock the door. About an hour later, I saw you start to get up. I first heard a very faint grunt, and then I saw your legs start to move. Shortly after, you were fully awake, and when you saw my face, you you started to scream, which then subsided to a whine and then to a whimper. That's when you saw it. The other thing in the room, my knife. It was obvious why it was there, and after a second or two of realization, you jumped up and grabbed it. I looked you square in the eyes and said, Abby, I love you. And then I felt the searing pain of the knife being driven into my side. I felt it being pulled out and jabbed back in with great force. I can feel it go in each time, like a fire burning a hole through my chest. I fell to the floor, laughing while coughing up blood. Saw you back away, trembling, and sit back in the corner. Now, as I sit in a puddle of my own blood writing this, I wonder how you'll go out. Will you use the knife to take your own life? Or will you let starvation take you? Either way, we'll be together. In death, Abby. Together. From the day I saw you till this day, we both die. Just the way I wanted it. And as you sit there crying, I can tell that you've come to this realization too, Abby. This is all that I've ever wanted. And for that, I have to say, thank you. Love.